8th grade. Today we're going to start with a warm-up. We've got 5 problems. We want to use long division, and as you're working these out, you'll see they don't go evenly. So when I solved it, I put the leftovers or the remainders into fractions, and I would encourage you to do the same. Go ahead and pause it. Please try these. Your work will be in your notes, and hopefully your answers will match up to mine. For number 1, you should have got 12 and a half. For number 2, 96 and 3/5. Number 3, 56 and 111. 46 and 11/12 for number 4, and for the last one, 9 and 10/11. Today we're going to be dividing polynomials. Our first skill is to find the quotient. So when we have a problem like this, for x squared minus 18x divided by 2x, there's 2 ways that we can solve this. So one is to take the 2x and divide it by both of the things, right? So if I divide a 2 from 4, I'm left with 2, and I get 1. And if I divide an x, I get nothing on the bottom here, and I have 1x on top here. And then again, I have to do the same thing with the second term. So 2 divided by negative 18 would be negative 9, and an x divided an x, the x will go away. So I'm left with 2x minus 9. Okay? Or we could do similar to what we did yesterday, where we take the top and we factor out anything that's common. So 4 and 18 have a 2 in common, and x squared and x, there's an x in common. And after I pull out a 2x, what's left on the inside is a 2x minus 9 over the original denominator. And now I have nice and clean 2x divided by 2x, which leaves me with the answer 2x minus 9. So whichever way you prefer, that's what we're going to be doing in this lesson. Why don't you guys try one? Whichever way you prefer. 2y squared minus 3y minus 9 divided by 3y. Go ahead and pause it. Your answer should be 2/3 y minus 1 minus 3 over y. Okay, so when I tried it, I did it the first way where I just divided, but then I cleaned it up, right? So 2 divided by 3, only the y's are going to cancel, and so I'm left with 1y. For the next one, we get 3, negative 3y over just a 3y, so we're left with negative 1. And then lastly, there was a negative 9 divided by 3y, so we are left with a 3 on the top and just a y on the bottom. Okay, so we had fractions in our answer, which is okay. All right, let's take a look at another example. B squared minus 2b minus 15 divided by b plus 3. So this time we have a set of parentheses because it's a binomial. Okay, so far we've only done monomials. So now we've got a binomial. So if I set this up, I've got the trinomial first on top. So like yesterday, I'm going to simplify it, factor it down into its parentheses. So I want to get negative 15 on the top when I multiply, and then I'm thinking on the bottom I have negative 2, so that's what they need to be when I combine them, right? When I add or subtract. And again, you can solve your factoring however it makes sense to you, okay? So when I do this, I know I'm going to get a positive 5, a negative 5, and a positive 3, right? Because I want a negative 2. So I'm going to get x minus 5 and b minus 5 and b plus 3, which cancels out b plus 3 on the top, b plus 3 on the bottom, and I'm left with an answer of b minus 5. You try. Trinomial divided by a binomial. X squared plus 11x plus 24, so you'll want to factor that first, divided by x plus 8. Pause it so you have time to finish. When you factor, you should end up with x plus 8 and x plus 3. Your x plus 8 cancels out, and you're left with just x plus 3. Okay, let's keep going. One more example. Okay, we've got it written 2 times the same problem. So 3q cubed minus 6q over 3q. And then we've got 3q cubed again minus 6q over 3q. So this time, this first one, I'm going to do the double, but I am going to rewrite it. So I have 3q cubed over 3q minus 6q over 3q. And when I do that, the 3's cancel out and one of the q's for the top. So I'm left with just a q squared. And then over here, my q's cancel out and 3 goes into itself once, 3 goes into 6 twice. So I'm left with minus 2. Okay, so my final answer is q squared minus 2. If I simplify by factoring first, I pull out what's common. There's a 3 and a q on the top in our numerator that's common, and I'm left with a q squared minus 2. On the bottom, I have 3q. 3 q's cancel out, and I'm left with just the parentheses. So q squared minus 2. One for you to try. 4t to the 5th power minus 5t to the 2nd power minus 12 divided by 2t squared. Pause it so you have time to work on it. Your answer should be 2t cubed minus 5 over 2 minus 6 over 2t. Skill number 2. Find each quotient using long division, okay? So if we take a problem, an old school problem, right, like a 5th grade, maybe even earlier, we've got no variables, right? 4,356 divided by 17. And if we're to do that and set it up, we start by trying to come up with numbers, right, that go into sections of this big number. So 17 cannot go into 4, right? It's got 2 numbers, right? So it's got a 1s and a 10s. So when we put the answer, we put it in the 10s because that means we're using the first 2, okay? So 17, right, times 2 is going to get us as close as we can to 43 without going over, and that's 34. And when we subtract, the difference is 9. And then we bring down the next, right? So I know that you know how to do this, but this is what we're going to be doing with our variables and our polynomials. So we need to make sure that we remember not just the how, but the why, right? So then we've got 95, and the closest we can get is times 5, and 17 times 5 is 85. So this time we have 10 left over, and we bring down our 6. And then the closest we can get to 106 is 6 times 17, which is 102, and there are 4 left over. And then we take that leftover, and that becomes our numerator over what we originally had on the outside, right, our divisor. So then our whole answer is 256 and 4/17. Okay, so while that's fresh, we're gonna look at our last 2 examples. Okay. So, let's say we have t squared plus 5t plus 4 divided by t plus 4. And our, I didn't leave room, but our directions say to use long division. So not the way that we've previously done it, right? And it's all the same, right? We can write divided by lots of different ways. So, you know, in the last couple examples, we did fractions, right? Where you write the top over the bottom and then we cancel them out. So long division is just another way to get the same answer, which is what we're gonna do. So the first number when we're dividing is our inside, right? So we're gonna take t squared plus 5t plus 4 and put that inside. And then our second parentheses, sorry, goes outside. So t plus 4 goes on the outside. All right, so stay with me, okay? I wanna make sure that you get this. We are gonna continue with this tomorrow. So you'll have, you know, today we're like checking it out, and then tomorrow we're gonna be focusing on just the long division, okay? So anyhow, we're trying to get t squared. So t times what gives us t squared? Well, that's a t. And because it's not a square, it has to go in the second section because that's where the t is, okay? So kind of like the tens and the hundreds. So this is a 1t, so it goes in the column of 1t's, right? T times t gives us t squared. And then we have to do that to the second, whatever else is on the outside as well. So t times 4 is plus 4t. So now we've multiplied our answer times both the things, so that means we can subtract. And when we do that, it's like parentheses, right? It's both. So we're gonna subtract on both sides. So 2t squared minus t squared gives us no. And 5 minus 4 gives us just a t. And then we bring down anything that's left, which is plus 4. So now we have t plus 4. So we focus again on just the first term. What times t will give us a t? That's a 1. 1 times t gives us t. 1 times 4 gives us a positive 4. And now we're going to subtract again. And so it's like subtracting both of them. Both of the signs change. T minus t gives us no t's, and 4 minus 4 gives us no 4. So there's no leftover, right? There's no fraction. There's no additional remainder. So our answer is just t plus 1. Okay. Another one. Y squared plus 4y plus 12 divided by y plus 3. Our trinomial goes inside. our binomial goes outside. Trying to get y squared. Y times y equals y squared. And then I have to multiply by the second. So y times 3 is 3y. And then I have to subtract. So we multiply by -1, right? So both of the signs change. Y squared minus y squared, no y squareds. 4y minus 3y equals just 1y. And then I bring down what's left, which is a positive 12. Again, focusing on the first term, y times what gives me a y? A 1. So that goes in the number column with no variables. 1 times y equals y. 1 times 3 equals 3. Signs stay the same. So now I subtract. Now they'll change. Y minus y is no y's. 12 minus 3 equals 9. This is my leftover. This is my remainder. So it's going to go on top, and my divisor goes on the bottom. So my answer is y plus 1 plus 9 over y plus 3. Kind of weird. I get that. Tomorrow we're going to do part 2 of 11.5, which is, again, like I said, we're going to continue focusing on the long division. So more kind of weird problems. For homework tonight, I'd like you to, on page 709, pick 2 odd problems. Any 2. Try them, check them in the back of the book, you're done for the day.